Hi there, and welcome back to our next term for APUS history, the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So here's your definition. An 1854 legislative act that created the territories of Kansas and Nebraska, which included a provision for popular sovereignty to be used to determine the status of slavery. So, some quick context here. The Missouri Compromise had temporarily prevented continued debates over the issue of slavery extending into the West, but the Mexican American War brought those debates back into the forefront of legislative concerns. The Compromise of 1850 allowed popular sovereignty to be used for the first time in Utah and New Mexico, which meant that the people there would get to determine whether slavery would continue. And so that whether slavery would be allowed in those territories. So new territories caused increased tensions. So, with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, we see this being proposed by Stephen Douglas, a senator from Illinois, who becomes a future presidential candidate. Included in this Kansas-Nebraska Act is that it divided the Nebraska territory into Kansas and Nebraska. It would apply popular sovereignty in each territory, and it would give slave owners the opportunity to expand into territories that had previously been closed by the Missouri Compromise. So it essentially would ignore the Missouri Compromise, which had quelled those tensions for 3 decades. So this is what happens as a result of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The Missouri Compromise in 1820, you see that slavery is prohibited in all those northern territories that had been gained in the Louisiana Purchase. Then, after the Mexican-American War, the Compromise of 1850 allowed for popular sovereignty to be used in Utah and New Mexico. And now with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, popular sovereignty would replace the Missouri Compromise and allow for popular sovereignty in those territories as well. So what we see happening as a result of the Kansas-Nebraska Act is that there are territorial elections, and prior to these elections taking place, both pro-slavery and free state settlers flooded into Kansas. A group called the New England Emigrant Aid Company actually helped pay for people to move to Kansas to vote for it to be a free state. Missourians were called border ruffians as they crossed the border and voted for pro-slavery. There was profuse voter fraud, and so pro-slavery forces ended up winning the election. This ends up leading to widespread violence known as Bleeding Kansas. We see two governments essentially forming. One was pro-slavery, one was free, and they competed for control, which essentially made it a civil war. We see violence erupting with John Brown and his sons murdering 5 pro-slavery settlers. The violence continues for years, and Kansas will not officially join the United States until 1861. Here is a famous image of the violence taking place in Kansas. So, what is the significance of this term? It ends up leading to the Lincoln-Douglas debates, which brought Lincoln into national prominence. So, in 1858, Lincoln and Douglas are going to vie for the same Senate seat. While Douglas will win, it brings Lincoln into national attention. And the Kansas-Nebraska Act fuels the emergence of the Republican Party, which still exists today. The voter fraud led to that Bleeding Kansas that we mentioned, and this ends up being one of the main causes of growing tensions, which led to the Civil War. For more on these tensions related to the events leading to the Civil War, check out my video on the lesson 5.6. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like and subscribe.